So I know you love rehearsing. Somebody else that loved it quite a lot was John Wayne.
Well, yeah, the very first time that I met him, I arrived in Carson City, Nevada. I was met by the director, Don Siegel, in the hotel. And Siegel says, let's take you up and meet Duke. And, you know, this was his last movie, The Shootist. But you know, it was epic in every way. So we're heading toward the elevator through the hotel lobby. We walk by the gift and sundries shop, and there is the magazine stand, and right there is TV Guide. And that week, Henry Winkler and I happened to be posing in our Happy Days costumes on the cover. And he said, oh, this is great, I'm gonna buy this and show Duke. And I was like, well, I don't know, are you sure you want to show the Happy Days thing? I don't know. And he said, oh no, he'll love it, he'll love it. So he bought it, we got in the elevator, we went up, opened the door, meet John Wayne. He's giant, he doesn't have his hairpiece on though, so he's a giant bald man. And reaches out his hand, good to meet you, and it just dwarfs my hand. I mean, just, I don't know how tall he was, 6'6", 6'7", but his hands were like a 7-footer. I mean, he was just huge. And it's like, I've shook hands with Shaq O'Neal. It's kind of like that.
Yeah.
And so then Don Siegel says, hey, look, Duke, look at this. And he hands him the TV Guide. John Wayne sort of squints at it, looks at me, looks back down at it, looks at me. He says, ah, big shot, huh? And I thought, oh man, I'm screwed now. But had a fine meeting, and as we started shooting, you know, I realized we had a lot of dialogue together, where I just could see that he was fighting the lines, and I was a little nervous about it too. And I said, you want to run lines? And he said, yeah. We went to his trailer and started running the lines. And he loved it. So that became our ritual.
And people were otherwise kind of on edge or terrified of him.
People were really careful around him. And it's, you know, it's not that he was throwing fits and kicking over C-stands and, you know, throwing boxes around or anything. But, you know, they gave him space. He was the Duke.
Right.
And I just realized that other people weren't engaging with him, but he was an actor and, you know, and wanted to make sure he had the scene under control, and we developed a great rapport, you know.
And 6 months after filming wrapped, he was interested in working with you again.
We crossed paths at AFI dinner honoring Henry Fonda. I had done a TV show with Henry Fonda, so I was invited, and I saw him, and he said, I found a book. I want to make it into a movie, and it's you and me or it's nobody. And by this time, we also kind of knew he was ill and declining. And so it was really poignant to first to see that he still had that drive, but also to know that he wanted to work together again, which meant a lot to me. You know, I worked with John Wayne. I worked with Glenn Ford, Shirley Jones, Henry Fonda, briefly with Jimmy Stewart. I directed Bette Davis. There was something that I was learning early in my career from all of these people, very different personalities. And so I was working with people who were, you know, fully established superstars, had won all the Oscars they were going to win, and yet still wanting to work. And when they showed up, it was winning time. It was time to be good. It was time to try to be great.
How much did John Wayne's wish that he had directed more stick with you?
Well, it certainly impressed me, and you know, and he was such a big star, and also at a time when actors just didn't really do that. But you know, this really fueled my dream and my ambition